How do everybody? I've just seen a rather interesting tweet or X, whatever you want to call it, over on the old Zitter, Twitter, X thing, that place where people post, owned by Elon Musk. Anyway, and it just I think feeds in again. I know it's on its own, it means nothing, but it's all these little red flags that I keep spotting. I just keep like to highlight to people. We'll have a look at it in a second, but I think it just again feeds into the whole. There's trouble coming down the old road in the future, and it's some of that most people who study history know about civil wars is that a civil war can never be really fought unless there's outside pressures and outside influence going onto the groups that are fighting inside. I mean, even like with the American Civil War, there was a lot of outside sort of money being poured in on both sides, and the American Revolutionary War was the same. Again, both sides were fighting, but there was lots of outside influence as well. You know, as two examples, it's very rare that you get a civil war that doesn't have funding for disparate groups and arming and things like that. But anyway, we'll get over to that now. We'll have a look, and I just think it's quite interesting. And I think again, it's not on its own; it's not definitive. You know, I don't want to get people worried, but it just again, I think it's just more evidence to show the sort of direction that we're heading. Anyway, let's get over to that now. Right, guys, so we're over on the old Elon Musk website, whatever you want to call it. And just this guy, Jim Ferguson, this just popped up in my feed. We'll read it in a second, but what I'll do is I'll play the video first. And he raises some quite interesting points in here. So let's crack a lacking with this video.
Figure to clean house, because the British have not had a real revolution since Cromwell. But I think they've reached a point now where they very much need a Cromwellian figure to clean house, because the people ruling them are weak and inept.
Do you see any path to that happening?
Just before we carry on with this, I mean, a really interesting point about Cromwell as well, guys, is Cromwell didn't just happen in a vacuum. Now, Oliver Cromwell happened after a series of massive failures in British society, well, more the higher echelons, and it wasn't just King Charles II. It was also what was called the Rump Parliament as well, and I've mentioned it before in a lot of much older videos, and I've mentioned it in passing in streams that I think since Brexit, we've effectively had a Rump Parliament in Parliament, where you've got the wish of the people, the overwhelming voting majority wanting one thing, and Parliament just being absolutely stubbornly against any sort of reform or change realistically happening. You know, like we saw it with Brexit, where they were absolutely trying to block it from happening, and we never even really got it, in my opinion. You know, I mean, we've had it in name only, and that's really it. So to anybody thinking, I mean, the whole rise of Cromwell wasn't just Charles II becoming sort of drunk on hubris and sort of trying to rule like an absolute monarch. Amongst many other things, which I won't go into too much detail, but it was also Parliament itself. And if I remember correctly as well, I think a big problem that they were having with Parliament, with the Rump Parliament, which sort of led to the rise of Cromwell, was piracy happening on the south coast of England, where Barbary pirates had actually taken shop up on an island just outside of Portsmouth, and they were actually kidnapping English people to sell in slave markets in North Africa, and people were having to actually go and buy their relatives back off these Barbary pirates. And that was sort of, I believe, the final straw for Cromwell, and why he started his sort of religious zealotry and his movement into becoming a massive radical. You know, so the sort of comparisons with this Colonel MacGregor talking about a Cromwellian figure rising are not unfounded in our history. And to all the Americans watching, we had a revolutionary war before you, and unlike you guys, we actually killed the king. But anyway, jokes aside, let's carry on with the video.
I don't know. I haven't been to Britain for many years. You know.
Really?
No, I have not. I think the last time I was in Britain was 2005.
Don't go. It'll make you too sad.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking to somebody who worships at the altar of English-speaking civilization.
Me too.
And I don't even want to think about it. But I think there are still enough Scots, Welsh, English, and Irish there who will stand up and be counted. I'm cheered up by somebody like Conor McGregor that stands up and defends Irish national culture, identity, language, everything. All of the Europeans need to come to Jesus on this one. They need to come very, very soon. And that doesn't mean they're evil. It means that they're defending the one thing that is worth defending, which is their own country, their own nation, their own society. So I hope that will happen. We need to do the same thing.
Right, I mean, that video is quite interesting. And it's just, again, just builds into this. We'll have a quick read of what Jim's writing here. And we'll have a little bit of a discussion as we're going through it. And it's just absolutely fascinating as to things that are people who, as I say, are very into studying sort of history and civil wars would say, massive, massive warning sign. So Colonel McGregor to Tucker, Britain needs another Cromwell. I mean, that in and of itself is quite a massive statement to make. And the fact he said it so plainly, and I've been hearing quite a few people over here in the UK saying that we need a Cromwell and all, you know, and I don't know how I feel about it myself. I mean, my gut instinct is like, yeah, I'd love that, but I mean, the reality of Cromwell was the guy was like an absolute bloody barbarian warlord. You know, he was genuinely like, well, he's like ISIS are today, like literally disemboweling people for religious purposes and that, you know. So be careful what you wish for is all I'll say with that one. So a stunning statement from Colonel Douglas McGregor on Tucker Carlson's show. He declared that Britain is in such dire straits that it may need another Oliver Cromwell, a revolutionary leader, a system breaker, a man who took down a failing monarchy and reshaped the nation. All of that is true. And as I say, what we're seeing here as well, by the way, guys, is these two gentlemen are obviously part of a particular branch of the elite in the United States, which is obviously the most influential country in the world, whether you like that or not. And I'm not just saying that to brown-nose America. It's just a statement of fact. You know, we have very, very influential people here who, at least one of them has definitely got the ear of the president as well. You know, if we were to see sort of any sort of revolutionary movements happening in the United Kingdom, these are the sorts of people that would be getting involved and backing what you may consider to be the nativist side. As in, you know, smuggling weapons, collecting funding. And again, we've had in even more recent history than that, we did see that in the Troubles in Northern Ireland, where people of Irish heritage in America, the United States, were collecting money and buying weapons for the IRA. You know, so it's not like we haven't got that in recent history either. You know, guys, so the precedent for this is already there. You know, it's not a long shot to say that we could be seeing a sort of foreign influential elite starting to take shape right here in front of our eyes on the internet. What is he really saying? Britain's ruling class is corrupt, out of touch and incapable of leading. The political system is collapsing under mass migration, economic failure and weak leadership. The people are losing faith just like they did before Cromwell's rise. Well, I mean, that's it. I mean, although not exactly the same, I think was it? I can't remember who it was. There was oh goodness, I forget. Somebody put it in the comments below, will you? But there was I think it was a famous author said that history doesn't repeat, but it certainly rhymes. And as I was saying before about what happened with Cromwell's rise, with, you know, like the Rump Parliament, corrupt king, you know, the sort of Barbary piracy, all that sort of stuff, people becoming disaffected. There's parallels there with what has happened in history. And at the time as well, England was mainland Europe used to laugh at the English at that time of history. They said England could never ever fight a war again because the people were too soft and decadent before the Civil War started. And by the end of the Civil War, 10% of the English population had been killed. That's a literal decimation. That is what comes from the time of the Roman legions as a punishment for unruly legions. They would split the legions down into groups of 10 men, and each of those 10 men would have to draw straws or pick one man, and they'd have to beat that one man to death, resulting in 10% of the legion being beaten to death by their own men. You know, so that's where the term decimation comes from. So England was literally decimated after by the Civil War. Is this a warning or a call to action? McGregor doesn't speak lightly. Does he see the UK heading towards an unavoidable breaking point? The globalist elite have sold out Britain, and the people know it. I mean, these are true facts, by the way, guys. It is time for a political reckoning, one that shakes the system to its core. Yeah, we are in the process of seeing that, and I just hope it stays peaceful, guys. I mean, I know I'm speaking about civil war here, but having served in 2 wars myself, war is not good for a country, guys. It really isn't. You know, nobody wins in a war. You just lose less depending on which side you're on. You know, it's like World War II. Nobody won World War II, guys. I know people like to say they did, but nobody actually won World War II. The Allies lost less than the Axis lost. The establishment won't like this. But the question remains, is he right? History may be repeating itself. Just a short video there, guys. I just thought it was really interesting. As I say, just 1 second, I'll just close this. Yeah, just an interesting little bit. You know, I am sort of reading maybe into it a little bit more than what is possibly there. But it's definitely interesting, and I think it's one of those things that certainly, again, with all the other things I keep highlighting, I think he's just showing us the sort of direction that society, that civilization is currently moving in. Am I happy about it? Absolutely not. It's quite worrying, if I'm honest with you. I definitely don't want to see a civil war happening in England, but I think though we are starting to sort of see foreign interest groups starting to form now, and we may start seeing them leaning into British politics and within factions of Britain itself to sort of try and gerrymander, I think would be the word, influence within the system itself. But anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. Make your own thoughts on what you will. Please put your comments below. I'm definitely interested to hear what people have to say on this, because obviously I don't actually know if what I'm saying is right. I mean, I'm just saying the thoughts that are coming into my head on this. But please put your own thoughts down below, because I'm really interested to know what other people think on this, because it's just crazy, man. Absolutely crazy. But anyway, I'll leave it at that. Thank you. Take care and goodbye.